well, some of the English players that I loved playing against, the likes of James Haskell, who was a competitor of mine, Ireland under 19s, 21s, even into the seniors that were the same age. So there was always a few battles, Ulster versus Stade Francais, and then we played against each other, obviously Ireland versus England. And there's a couple of good photographs where we're nose to nose. I think there was a bit of a scuffle broke out, and Hask, as he is, trying to throw his weight around. He's very muscle bound. He's not very good at moving him too quickly, and he turned around and it was me in front of him, and I just, we both had headgear on as well, so it was like nose to nose, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that," and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that." But like straight after the match, James is the type of fella where he just laughs, and you just, he would embrace you, have a hug, and like, "Oh, how you keeping? What's the crack? How's things?" And genuinely, I know he maybe gets a little bit of a bad rap for being probably annoying on social media, or in the jungle when he was over in Australia, and in that I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, wasn't it? That what he was on? But no, he's a really good lad, top fella. Always a lot of time for him, and it's good that we've caught up a bit since. His career lasted a few years longer than mine did. Obviously went on the last Lions tour to New Zealand, caught up with him out there, had a bit of lunch with him and Sean O'Brien at a Wagamama's down in Wellington. So no, it was good, and he was a good player. I think he struggled a lot with injury. He had a really bad toe injury. His body was breaking down. I suppose it all happens to us all, but he was very competitive, really good athlete, and obviously a huge man. So no, it was always good to come up against somebody like Dylan Hartley. So Dylan Hartley had a old gnarl at my right pinky finger in that game in 2012. Wasn't it 2012? Yeah, I think it was. And like I've seen him like a dozen times since that incident, and he's never even broke breath to me. He ignores me. He sat at the World Rugby Awards in London, and I was sat beside Eddie Jones, and there was like Mario Toji. It was all English lads at my table. I was the only guy there. I think I was presenting an award or something, and he sat down across the table, and he didn't even break breath to me. And I shook hands with all the other lads, and just like, see if after the game he had just come up to me and went, "Like, you know what? Sorry about that. Like, you were being, really niggly on the ground, and like just red come over me, and I'm sorry about that." I'd be like, "No worries." Shake his hand, and it's forgotten about. It's dead and buried. But like, I will always hold that grudge against him now. Like, anybody I speak to says that he's a really good guy. Like Roger Wilson, who obviously played Ulster Rugby with, said he's a top fella. Anybody that meets him in the media circle says he's a top fella. But I can't say that, because he has never come up to me and says, "Look, I'm sorry about that." And even if he did now, I know it's 10 years later, longer, I'd be like, "Yeah, no problem. At least you had the balls to come up and say, I'm sorry for what I did." But he didn't, and he got banned for a number of weeks. We all know that Dylan Hartley's got a bad record when it comes to his discipline in the game of rugby. But yeah, if I ever see him again, I'll always say hello, but you can be sure I'll not get a return favour.